the honourable member, General Mkwanazi, did you hear that one?
Yes, I heard it.
Okay, then I won't repeat it because I didn't hear it. So
Honourable Chair, maybe to try and assist, I said earlier, myself and Mr. Nkabinde got to know each other on a professional level because he was working with someone that I knew. He was a colleague at IPT, a colleague of Mr. Mahlangu, the late. Mr. Mahlangu was a brother of a former police brigadier who was my friend. So I'm friends with Brigadier Mahlangu. Brigadier Mahlangu has got a brother who's Mahlangu, who works for IPT. And that Mahlangu works with Nkabinde. That's how I got to know Nkabinde first. So the engagement in Nkabinde was always about work issues, mostly, nothing else. Until he's out of the job, then he'll start telling me about how is he trying to make the ends living and how he's trying to survive on things. So we ended up having those casual talks with him. That's why I said earlier, I don't necessarily know much about his private life, not much about his family. You know, I will know his house, I know his wife and his 2 boys, but the rest, I didn't necessarily know much about him because we're not friends to that extent. It's people that know each other. So the engagement between myself and Mr. Nkabinde and the minister only happened on the day when Mr. Nkabinde took me to Mpangeni. I drove with him to Mpangeni where we met the minister. And it was just to show that he knows the minister and there was nothing else more that was discussed. There was no promise of a job. There was nothing else. That's why I said earlier, I cannot remember at the time whether the minister was at public service or was at water or what, but I like to believe perhaps he was already at water. But because I didn't pay attention, I cannot tell you exactly definitely the day when we visited which department he was working for. But I knew that he was a minister at the time. So therefore there was no telephone calls between us in relation to his appointment. So his appointment as a chief of staff, I said at the time he was working for IPT, he left IPT, he was unemployed. Up until the Minister of Police, Mr. Senzo Mchunu, was appointed as a Minister of Police. That is when he invited Nkabinde to come and join him to work with him as a chief of staff. That was the first time Nkabinde got to be employed, literally basically moving from a very junior rank that he was holding in the police to a chief director position that he ended up occupying, which he occupies now, a chief director in the office of the minister. So that's why I said earlier, when he received the phone call from the minister asking him to become a chief of staff, he had no clue what is a chief of staff. He phoned me to ask me, what do chief of staffs do? Because the only thing Nkabinde knew is a case docket, because he was just an investigator. That's all he knew. So when he's invited to become a chief of staff was a shocker to him, but I ended up telling him about the amount of money is going to be paid when he gets to that position. Obvious, I did not know about other qualifications I didn't need to have, but he was appointed. He became a chief of staff. He is a chief of staff now. I hope I've covered that.
Honorable Nombalo, are you fine? Okay. Honorable Sangun.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I think I've got 2 questions for clarity, although one might be procedural. The first one, I know that the evidence leader did ask the general why he went to see the minister, and I think the general said they wanted to meet. That's where I need clarity, because I'm interested to know whether it's normal procedure that a provincial commissioner is just introduced to ministers, or was there any other reason? And then secondly, when the general then went to see the minister, was the general aware at the time that the minister was a person of interest, because he would have had, he would be privy to this information that is coming out? Then, Chairperson, my last question is just about procedure. I'm looking for clarity on procedure. The general in his testimony did indicate that there are questions that are being raised that don't cover the statement. Now, we've said as this ad hoc committee that we're not going to try and push anything under the carpet, but I'm worried where we are going to constantly be encountering testimony that is not in the statement. Now, will we be getting a supplementary statement, for example, on those issues so that when we engage them, we would at least have them on the record? Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
The Senior Counsel.
Chair, on the last aspect, Honourable Member, or do you first want to deal with the first part of your question?
Yeah, if you can please get closer to the microphone.
We did discuss, and I touched on it in our opening statement this morning, and we raised it with General Mkwanazi in our consultation last when we recognized him ahead of yesterday, that I will from time to time ask him about matters or issues or questions that doesn't arise from his statement, for the reason that this procedure or process is different from Madlanga. General Mkwanazi is going to appear here today, and tomorrow honourable members will ask him questions, and then he will leave. Whereas at Madlanga, he has given evidence there extensively. He will have to go back to the commission to be cross-examined by those implicated by him in his evidence there. And also those implicated by him will get an opportunity to give their evidence to the commission and also be cross-examined, presumably by the evidence leaders. We here, before this committee, we don't have that luxury. I have put to General Mkwanazi, and certainly he indicated to us that he doesn't have a problem with it, that we will also put to him, in fairness, the versions of other persons who are implicated by him in his evidence for him to respond, which is not necessarily in his statement, Honourable Chair.
I'm noting your hand, Honourable Malim. Let's allow the Senior Counsel first to facilitate for. Okay.
Chair, I really don't understand how you want us to proceed. Because it must be on the basis of technicalities, audibility, and things like that. If you're going to allow them to ask questions, we're going to ask questions. Don't do that. We agreed each member is going to get 30 minutes tomorrow. And if they ask questions now and tomorrow they ask questions on their 30 minutes, they've got 35 minutes. Are you going to afford me that? Please don't do that. The last question Honorable Sangoni raised, it's a proper question. It's a clarity, it's a procedural matter that, okay, now that this thing is not in the statement, what do we do with it? And the Senior Counsel clarified it. And that I accept that. What the General is being asked about is his relationship with Nkabinde, which is covered in the annexure from Madlanga. He spoke about Nkabinde in Madlanga. So remember, we've got this main statement, we've got annexures, and we can ask questions based on all of those annexures that are here, if you have gone through them. There's nothing irrelevant about that. But to ask the questions of why do you go to a minister? Is that a procedure to go to ministers? No, it's not clarity. It's not dealing with any technicality. It's a question that can be asked tomorrow in your 30 minutes. And if you're going to proceed like that, then they're going to get more time than all of us. And what do we do tomorrow? So it's unfair, Chair. Let the questions be on procedural issues, on technical issues. That's what we agreed on. Not anyone wanting to take advantage and we have more time at our expense. Thanks.
Okay. Can we agree that the questions will be answered tomorrow? Yes.
Chair will agree for the sake of peace, but you allowed questions from MK. But in order for us to proceed, we will stand down and agree. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Let's agree that those questions will be answered tomorrow. Can we? Okay. Honorable Novalo.
Chair, we just need clarity so that we will be clear as we move forward. Remember that asking question was on the basis of the proposal that was made by the Chief Whip of the ANC. That members can only be allowed to ask questions on issues arising from the questions asked by the evidence leader to the witness, not new questions, but on areas where we have not been clear in terms of the responses that have been given. And asking questions emanated from that. We're not asking new questions, but we wanted to be clear for our records so that when we make records, we make proper records from the correct understanding of what has been a response. So if there's a deviation from that, Chairperson, just say members will no longer be allowed to ask questions because it is a position of this meeting. And that position was motivated by the Chief Whip of the ANC.
Let me say this. I agree with the questions that you raised, Honorable Novalo. There is nothing wrong with that. I agree with the last part of the questions that Honorable Sankoni has raised. And her two questions that she raised first will be answered tomorrow. That's what we are saying. Is it very clear?
Can I come in, Chair? Now the question, Chair, is should we ask questions going forward emanating from a misunderstanding of what has been?
You wanted to clarify certain matters regarding the relationship that Mr. Nkabinde had with Minister Mchunu. And the questions that you raised were not new questions. They were based on questions that were raised by the senior counsel. And that is why I say I agree with those questions. That is why I even came back to you to check if you were satisfied with the answers that were given. So it means if you may have questions later, you can still ask those clarity-seeking questions. Like Honorable Sangone had asked a question about procedural matters, which the senior counsel has clarified because it's a matter of procedure. But there are other two questions that she raised, which may be on the borderline. And that is why I agree with her when she says, for the sake of peace, let's continue. And I give a ruling because I don't want us to discuss the merits and the demerits of the questions. Where I stand, they are on the borderline. It may be very difficult if we may end up being polemical about them. So those questions are noted. They will be answered tomorrow. Is that fine, honorable members? Senior counsel?
Thank you.
May we please proceed?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, honorable members. General Mkwanazi, I was moving to the Minister's Directive of 31 December 2024. It is NSM 5, which is on page 78 and 79. General Mkwanazi, we can take it as read.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, this has been in the part of the bundle. So to save time, I'm not going to read it, and I'm not going to ask the witness. I just want to deal with your leave with the issues that arise from this letter. There are three: the freezing of posts in crime intelligence, the directive relating to the port of entry, and 3, the disbandment of PKTT. Any comment on why these 3 issues were packaged in this way?
Yeah, well, I'm not an author. The minister is the one who signed this. If I were to express my feeling about it, it was just strange that such strategic and very critical issues of the organization, never mind the fact that they're operational, but they're very critical, that a minister felt that it's important to send this communication in the form of a letter in this fashion, literally 2 days after the National Commissioner started his leave. And exactly almost 3 or 4 days after he parted ways with the National Commissioner, where he was with him in person in the funeral, and he never spoke about these things. So for such serious things to just be at that time of the year, be written like this, it makes one to ask questions as to why. I guess is that why question that led us here today?
Yes.
Yep.
And I'm asking you why would 3 such key issues that seems to, your comment, that seems to fit into this narrative of organized crime, intelligence, borders, for example, drugs and illicit goods move across the borders, and of course the disbandment of the PKTT, which is going to be the focus of our attention. But just your comment, did this also raise suspicions on your part?
Yeah, when I saw it, immediately I said, but this is very strange. I just don't understand. I'm with the minister on a Saturday, together with the National Commissioner, and we part ways, and they all say happy New Year to all of them. And on the second, then the letter comes through, and it's a letter that talks about decisions that have got serious consequences in the organization. Stop filling vacancies now. When did it become so urgent that you couldn't talk to the accounting officer when you were with him a few days back? Now, of course, when we started asking questions, because these, at the time, one did not know why these specific 3 areas. But as the time progresses, then we got to understand why. And it is that understanding of the why that ended up leading us into trying to intervene in the manner that we did.
Okay. Now, you deal with it, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, you deal with this decision from pages 810 through to 17, paragraphs 14 to 30. I'm not going to ask you to read through it. I'm going to ask you some pointed questions that arise from it. Sorry. Is it correct that the minister had not received a single briefing from those in charge of the PKTT prior to the 31st of December, and in particular yourself and Lieutenant General Khumalo?
Yeah, well, I know now after engaging both General Khumalo and the National Commissioner that they didn't brief him, but from my side, I knew that I had not briefed him to date.
Okay. And between July 2024, when Minister Mchunu was appointed by the President as Minister of Police, and 31 December 2024, there hadn't been any of this interministerial committee meetings that you had earlier described and referred to.
No, definitely, there were no such meetings.
You also saw the minister on the 28th of December 2024. What was that occasion? And at that occasion was Mr. Nkabinde, Chief of Staff Nkabinde, with him?
Honorable Chair and members, I cannot remember whether Mr. Nkabinde was there, but I do remember that the minister in our last meeting that we had with him in December, he was a functionary at the funeral of a police officer that died at Escaleni in KZN. And the Minister of Police was a functionary in that official funeral that was held there. So I was with him there. I do not know much about Nkabinde. I cannot remember.
So we're going to talk about when you learned about this directive, because as you can see, it's addressed to the National Commissioner, General Masamolo, and let me see if it's copied to anyone else. No, it's just addressed to him. So you weren't aware of this letter. We'll get to when you... but since you learned of this letter subsequent to the 31st of December, were you disappointed that he never raised this issue at all with you on the 28th of December when you saw him at the funeral?
Yeah, Honorable Chair and members, as the SC indicates that on my statement, I indicate I speak a lot, I write a lot about the events of the 2nd of January 2025 when I first became aware of this letter. My initial response from the time I saw the letter was just shocked and surprised that how can Misa write such a serious letter that is going to have so much implications in the organization. And more concern is that I had already met the minister, and I wouldn't want the executive authority to do things that is against the law. And so I have a responsibility to bring to his attention. But at the time, I felt it is important to use a shortcut because I got to meet the minister before he became the Minister of Police through Mr. Nkabinde. I know Mr. Nkabinde is the office of the minister. He had asked me what Chief of Staff does. So upon seeing this letter, he was the first person I called, because I believe that there cannot be any document going to the minister for signature without his knowledge. So I called him and said, Nkabinde, the minister signed a letter that says the following. Are you aware of this letter? And his response was, yes, I am aware of the letter. But according to him, the letter was going back and forth by whoever between the minister, whoever was drafting the letter and the minister. That made me believe that the minister is not the author. Someone else prepared this letter for the minister. And the minister signed it. Because Nkabinde's response to me was, after the letter was signed, after it going back and forth, then he was pressured to make sure this letter is delivered at the Office of the National Commission on the 31st. So, and hence the letter was delivered. So this was from his words that made me believe that there's someone somewhere who influences the minister to do this. I think they will give in the minister wrong advice. I wanted to correct that. That's why I felt it's important for me to plead with Mr. Nkabinde that, can you, Mr. Nkabinde, if you are coming down to KZN, you must arrange a meeting between myself, you, and the minister so we can sit down and talk about the implications of this. Because if the minister will have a letter like this that says you are disestablishing a team there's consequences that's going to come as a result. And one of the consequences is that the minister might be seen to be defeating the ends of justice, because you're literally saying that the investigations that are currently underway must stop immediately. And that is going to have serious consequences of the minister. So I wouldn't want the minister to get to this, because I saw a risk that the minister is going to be held liable for this decision. So I wanted to address it with the minister and give him advice, using Nkabinde as a person that I know is close to the minister, and I got to see the minister for the first time through him. But unfortunately, it did not happen.
So just to summarize, is it Nkabinde who told you that the minister was in fact not the author of this letter? Is it Nkabinde who told you that there was seemingly an exchange of drafts going back and forth before the letter was finalized? Is it that caused you to conclude that there was third-party involvement, whether it's one or more persons, we don't know, and also that made you conclude that this is not the minister's handwork, it's a third party involved?
Yeah, well, it was his words when he said this letter has been going back and forth, but he did not say who is the author. When he said it's been going back and forth, being corrected, and after that, he was pressured to make sure the letter is submitted. From there, I concluded that someone else was behind this letter. And Nkabinde had to facilitate it to send it to the minister for signature.
Sorry, Honourable Chair, may my colleague be excused? We've got a 6 o'clock scheduled with...
No, I have sanctioned that, Senior Counsel. Honourable members, Maria has to leave us because they have to conclude engagements with General Sidia. Thank you so much, Senior Counsel. You can
thank you, Richard, and honourable members for the indulgence. You must have been shocked at this revelation by your good friend, Mr. Nkabinde. Given the importance of these matters, all three matters, border control, crime intelligence is huge. We know it's been at the heart of a lot of issues in our country for a number of years. These are all important, critical issues. Now you hear there's been a back and forth. The minister may not have drafted the letter himself. You suspect third-party involvement.
Yeah, no, it was indeed a concern. But I must say, Honourable Chair and members, on the day when I became aware of this, I couldn't blame Nkabinde on anything, because to me, he was honest to tell me that the letter was going back and forth, being corrected, and he was pressured to make sure that it's delivered at the Office of the National Commission. So I like to believe that, giving him a benefit of doubt, that on the day when this letter was drafted and subsequent to it being forwarded to the Office of the National Commissioner, he perhaps had no role to play with regard to the content of the letter, except to do the administration processes of it. The problem then came on the following day. When the following day, this letter, or the content of my engagement with him, appeared in the social media somewhere, that I threatened the Minister of Police with arrest and so forth, because I had said that if this is going to be implemented like this, the minister will be accused of crime, and that might end up bad towards the minister. So let's fix this. That was the exact same day when this letter was leaked. So unfortunately, the following day after talking to Mr. Nkabinde, the conversation between me and him was twisted somehow in the social media, but it landed in the social media. So then we had a conversation the following day where he said to me he believes his phone was somehow been tapped by someone someone was listening to our conversation and so forth. He did not share the conversation with anyone. So that's when I started asking myself questions about Nkabinde himself. Because I'm engaging with him a day before, and the following day, our conversation is on social media. It made me realize that perhaps he's the one that leaked it. Honorable Chair and members, I then am not going to talk much about what I became aware of most recently, that indeed Nkabinde was instructed to record me at the time. Instructed to record the conversation between me and him. So it means when I was talking to him, I was recording, and he would have shared that recording to someone. That's why that recording ended up in a social media the following day. But it was no mistake.
Can we just clarify this? You don't have copies of what was on social media?
No, I don't have it with me, but I can try and trace it. But there were a lot of, at the time, there were a lot of communication that was out there on the social media, but I can try and see if I can decide. But I don't have anything with me here.
Yeah, because what I think we would also like to know is whether what appeared on social media, is it actually exactly the same as what was recorded in your conversation with him allegedly?
I can tell you, not all of it, but by and large, the conversation between me and him was there in the social media communication.
And forgive me if I'm offside, just tell me or ignore the question. But did I also understand that there's an allegation that when you spoke to Nkabinde, you had threatened the minister?
I was warning Nkabinde that if this letter, with its content the way it is not withdrawn, and the work of the police in terms of investigation come to a halt as is directed by this letter, this is going to have consequences towards the minister. Because the minister has got no jurisdiction in stopping a criminal investigation that is running. So this letter is literally saying that this team must stop with immediate effect. I'm not quoting verbatim, but it is basically, the task team be disestablished immediately. Those are the words. So if you are saying that, you are saying, if the case is in court, stop working. If the case and investigation stop working, just stop everything at once. That's the consequences this letter has. So I was warning Nkabinde that you better make sure that you, and the minister sit and talk about this. Because I don't know what is the circumstances that led into Mr. signing it, but the implication of the letter will land the minister in trouble. So it was there that the following day, which appeared on social media as if I threatened the minister when I was communicating with Mr. Nkabinde.
So did you see either the whole or part of your discussion on social media yourself, or was this reported to you by someone that what is this that appeared on social media, and you then saw it?
Yeah, well, I saw the communication. I cannot remember how it came to me, but I saw that communication of what was out there that was spread.
So did you speak to Nkabinde either on the 3rd after this appeared on social media or afterwards?
Yeah, we've been talking. Afterwards, we've been talking up until most recently. I think after my press briefing, then we pass each other now. We don't talk to each other.
But what has come from your discussions or talks with him? He appears certainly, with respect from what you're telling this honourable committee and us, that he seems to be a central figure in all of this.
In all of what?
Well, the letter, and you say that he knew there was a toing and froing of the letter. He also told you that he was pressured into getting the letter out on the 31st of December, is on New Year's Eve, which in itself sounds, I don't think one needs evidence on this. It sounds really odd that on New Year's Eve, such an important document is released. So I'm asking about his central role in this, his appointment as Chief of Staff, when according to you, he's not even qualified for this role, doesn't have the qualifications. I must confess, I don't know what the qualifications might be, but I suppose we can look that up on the public service regulations, what it entails. But it sounds to me that he wasn't quite qualified for the job. So that's why I'm asking you to comment on that proposition, that he seems to be quite a key figure in all of this.
Honorable Chair and honorable members, it sometimes can be dangerous to express your opinion about something that you don't have facts on. Since the S is asking me my impression I have is that Mr. Nkabinde was recruited or was appointed by the Minister Chief of Staff, and he had no clue about what Chief of Staff does. So he had to adjust in the office. He had to learn as he was going. That's why I know that the other former Chief of Staff at the office of the Minister can come here and testify that he also phoned him and seek advice as to what does Chief of Staff do. And he also had to coach him about what Chief of Staffs are doing. And so he had to adjust as you learn as he was going. And I think that's why even he started learning politics, because he was never a politician. So I see him today with T-shirts of political parties, which I don't think he even understands what it takes to be a politician. So he adjusted as he was going along to please his boss.
Learning on the job.
Yeah.
Okay. But what I'm curious about, and what I think many of us here would be curious about, is you continue to engage with Nkabinde, despite clear shortcomings that he has in that post, despite the critical role he plays in that post. A Chief of Staff presumably is very close to, that's why you appoint someone Chief of Staff.
Honorable Chair and all members, these things are happening. The letter comes out, I speak to Chief of Staff, and after that he said he tried to secure a meeting with the minister, is not able to, and next thing he says to me, no, he did not release the information that I was talking to him about. Perhaps someone tapped his phone or something like that. So I had no reason not to believe what he was telling me. So all the time, even when we meet in meetings, because the person I know, so we'll engage. As the time went by in this first 6 months of the year, I started getting more information about his role that he plays in some of the meetings, how vocal he becomes in some of the meetings, and which was strange to me, but he's got no role there. How does he become this vocal? So slowly then I started monitoring his social media and then WhatsApp status. Then I started realizing he's no longer the man that I knew he was, because, as I say, he's now a politician. He talks about politics and he displays T-shirts of political parties, rallies and all those things, which is now away from what the Chief of Staff is supposed to do. And that's when I started realizing that maybe is what I'm hearing about his involvement, about interfering with police work, might be true as the time progresses. Until such time that eventually we started picking up other evidence. I think when I went public on the 6th of July, the lines were drawn between me and him. So we never really engaged after that.
I think you've answered the question that initially you were reluctant to answer. You don't want to express an opinion on Nkabinde.
No, I said it's sometimes it's wrong to express an opinion without facts. But since you asked me the question, and I felt maybe I can express opinion because this is my observation. So I'm qualifying it like that, and it's my observation. But I'm sure those from the political party that he markets the lot, they might want to go and check when did he join them and when did he become a member for him to be that active.
So there are interactions between you and him after the 3rd of January leading up to the 6th of July.
We've been talking together up until the press briefing happened. We've been talking. We stopped communicating after the press briefing.
Well, did he say anything further about the letter? Did he say anything further about any of the 3 aspects in the letter, especially the disestablishment? I think that's the word that was used, the disestablishment of the PTKT. Did he say anything about it?
Honorable Chair members, there's been a lot of engagement between me and him in between. There would be conferences, summits, there and there, meetings, BOC. So we come across. There will be a gatherings, the minister is there, he comes with, he's part of the staff, so we talk. That's why you'll see later when I talk about on my statement about the Mr. Mkwanazi that phoned me in October last year. I phoned Nkabinde to ask Nkabinde, so he told me about who Mkwanazi was. I didn't know Mkwanazi, it's him that told me about Mkwanazi. So there's been a lot of conversation between me and him. And the last, I think, heart-to-heart talk we had with him, we had at Beachwood Hotel in Johannesburg, and he accompanied me into the car. When they were, I think the tensions were growing already in terms of after this letter, as the team was trying to figure out and the team working out and what they were picking up. And I had an engagement with him there when he said, hey, I don't know anything about what's happening. And I said to him, boss, truth always comes out. So whatever that is happening right now, it's going to come out. So you better be on the right side of the law. I hope you're not going to get caught on the wrong side. That was my conversation with him in Beachwood Hotel. So that was a heart-to-heart talk. Other than that, we'll just meet and greet, hey, how's it? We just talk on a G. And we end there.
And you mentioned that did he appear to know Mkwanazi well?
No. At that time when I phoned him about a person who had contacted me as Bran Mkwanazi, he's the one who told me that no, he's a person who's very close with the minister, but he said he's not working for the department. He's not employed in the ministry, but he's close to the minister.
So he's the person who told you that Mkwanazi is very close. Is that did you?
Yeah,
very close to
that was his word. But that's why I even asked him to give me the Mkwanazi's number, and he sent me the Mkwanazi's number to confirm that it's the same person you're talking about.
And is that also, although we were still going to come to it, is that also
Senior Counsel? Yeah, close up.
Oh, am I? Sorry, Honourable Chair. Sorry, members. Is that also why you alleged on the 6th of the 5th of March, when there was an appearance before it was online, the appearance before the police committee of Parliament of Mr. Cameron, when you alleged that Mkwanazi was an associate of the minister?
Yeah, that's correct. I was quoting on what I learned from Mr. Nkabinde.
So you got that from Nkabinde?
That's correct.
Did you have any engagement with the minister after the 2nd of January? Did you contact him? Did you phone him? Did you write to him? Did you go to his office to ask him to explain why he issued this directive?
My main concern, Honourable Chair and members, the engagement I will be having with the minister was always work-related, in meetings and so forth, but not specific about the letter. I tried with Nkabinde to meet with the minister so we can talk about the letter, and it did not happen. I tried with the National Commissioner to ask him to secure with a meeting with the minister so we can talk about the letter, and it didn't happen. Until I had to ask the honourable member, Mr. Cameron, to invite me to come to this committee, portfolio committee, so that we can be able to address some of these issues that I'm seeing happening. And yes, we arrived and we spoke about it, but the minister just put a cold shoulder on it. He didn't take it serious. He simply says, no, well, the person that Mkwanazi is talking about, I don't know the person. So it just ended like that. So those are my efforts. I had actually, even before coming to the portfolio committee, if I'm not mistaken, no, after, I sent the minister WhatsApp directly, where then I was pleading with him that, Minister, can we meet? And it was, I must say, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, the WhatsApp, I think I will have shared it in my statement.
Yeah, the WhatsApp General, is NSM 6. Honourable Chair and honourable members, NSM 6 at pages 80 and 81 of the annexures bundle. Which one?
That's correct. Honourable Chair, honourable members, this was my effort to try and reach out to the minister as I was observing what was happening up until April. Then I realized that it looks like everyone is failing to secure a meeting with the minister. Let me try on my own.
Can I please? I think this is important. This is a WhatsApp sent to the minister on the 5th of April. Can you have you got it there, General?
Yes, I may.
Can you read it into the record?
Sawubona Minister, that's a Zulu greeting. Please forgive. Yeah, my bad writing there. Please forgive for writing this message directly, but I feel that I must respectfully request a meeting in order to deal with internal issues within our organization which affects me and my family and has a potential of destabilizing our crime-fighting efforts. I tried to reach out through Nkabinde in his private capacity early in January this year. And late, I spoke to him in his capacity as Chief of Staff. And again, I had a special request to the National Commissioner to try and secure the meeting before appearance before the Portfolio Committee on Police. This situation is escalating and it has a potential of demoralizing our hard-working members. And there are even politicians that are using these social media posts to sow divisions within the SCPS. I do not like what's happening. Hence, I feel that the minister must call us into a meeting so that we can iron out everything that is dominating the media space. I do not like what's happening. Hence, I feel that the minister must call us into a meeting so that we can iron out, I think that's a repeat of the previous page, iron out what is dominating, everything that is dominating the media space. It is my plea that the minister calls the National Commissioner, Lieutenant General Sbiya, Lieutenant General Khumalo, myself, Major General Khan, Mr. Nkabinde, and Mr. Brown Mohodzi, in order to get to the bottom of the problem. It is the prerogative of the minister to invite the executive director of IPIT if he feels it's necessary. I have requested to take a vacation leave tomorrow and Friday, but I can make time if the minister decides to meet this week. I hope my request will be favorable. And the response from the minister reads, your WhatsApp message was received, will revert at some point.
Did he ever revert at any point?
Not at all. To date, I'm still waiting for the minister to revert to me. In actual fact, honorable chair members, there was a meeting that the minister had called between myself and General Sbiya in his residence in Pretoria. And in that meeting, he acknowledged that he owes me for this meeting. He said, I know that I'm supposed to meet with you as per your request, but today I did not invite you for that. I invited you for another meeting. So that was the closest ever he addressed this.
And what was the date of that meeting?
Honorable Chair, I cannot remember exactly the date of the meeting. I don't know if I have it on my statement, but it's a meeting that we held in Pretoria. I cannot remember the date. I'll be lying. Should be in May somewhere, but if I'm not mistaken.
So in relation to the disestablishment of the PKTT, your evidence is that the minister never consulted with you, let alone contacted you or Lieutenant General Khumalo before his decision to disestablish the PKTT on 31 December 2024. And neither did he meet with you, discuss with you, let alone consult you on his decision even after the 31st of December 2024. Does that summarize your evidence?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Honorable Chair and members, that in as far as I am concerned, the minister never engaged me. But I've learned later at the beginning of this year that there were engagements that the minister, had with both the National Commissioner and General Kumalo, but I was not invited into those meetings. The last one being the 6th of March, immediately a day after the appearance at the Portfolio Committee. They had a meeting which I was not invited. And I think there was subsequent a meeting after that, which was the last meeting I'm told that they had.
Yeah, there was a meeting on the 5th of March, the 6th of March, 27th of March. You were not invited to any of those meetings.
On the 5th of March was a Portfolio Committee.
Sorry, the 5th, you were here.
Yeah.
Well, it was an online meeting, but you were in that meeting.
That's correct.
But we can go to the transcript of that meeting, but I stand corrected. But in that meeting, when Lieutenant General Kumalo makes a presentation to the police committee, he talks there about the PKTT being sort of phased out and being in a state of transition. In his presentation, there's no objection to the minister's directive of the 31st. He reports to the committee on the state of the PKTT, that it was still in operation, but it was now being, I think the words he may have used was now being phased out. Do you recall that? You were online in the meeting.
Yeah, that's correct, Chair. I was part of the meeting, and the meeting was a visual meeting, and I do remember that presentation. Well, it was a shock to me, but I couldn't challenge it because I believe that the National Commission authorized the presentation to be made, which means that was an approach the National Commission wanted to take. Being an accountable person in terms of policing, I couldn't question him if that's what he really wanted to do.
And there was also then a meeting on the very next day, on the 6th of March. There's a presentation that's made on the PKTT, again by Lieutenant General Kumalo, the minister, and I think the senior management were in that meeting, to the same effect. A bit more detail is given, but to the same effect, the PKTT is being phased out. Now that you were obviously told about this, I'm not sure about the evidence leaders in the commission, but we told you about it. We showed you yeah, I think they did, because the presentation is part of the record. Were you surprised to hear that?
Honorable Chair and honorable members, the meeting of the 6th, I was not informed about it. And the subsequent meeting that happened later in March, I was not told about it. The only first time I got to learn about those meetings is upon learning that the case dockets that are in KZN have been moved to Pretoria. Even the movement of those dockets, I was not told. Until General Sentumule was at the head office, phoned me and tell me that you want to bring dockets to me. And then I asked, what dockets are you talking about? He said, no, the dockets from the team. I said, but where are they? She said, they're in Pretoria. I said, but how did they get there? Because they're supposed to be in KZN. What are they doing in Pretoria? How did you get them there? So the same way you took them, maybe you must bring them the same way, because I don't know anything about it. But then I called the members from the team to come and brief me about the status of the investigation. That's when officially they confirmed that 121 of those dockets were sent to Pretoria. But when they were taken, I was not told.
No, you weren't told, but in what capacity did you expect to be told, or even to be asked for your permission to move those dockets from KZN to head office in Pretoria? Is it in your capacity as the Provincial Commissioner of KZN, or is it in your capacity as the person still leading the PKTT, in charge of this team?
For two reasons, but the main one is that the dockets belong to KZN. All those case dockets that belong in KZN, they are accounted for in KZN. When we appear before the Portfolio Committee on Police, we have to account about the performance of detectives, we account on every docket that is registered in the province. So for someone to decide to take the docket and travel over 700 kilometers to Pretoria without telling me was problematic already. And so I needed to be told because of that. I'm the accounting office in the province. You can't remove something out of the province without telling me. That's the first thing. The second part, I'm part of this project. Yes, it's a national project running in KZN, but I'm part of it. So the least I must be engaged as to why there's this decision. The similar engagement that was made with me when there was a request of assigning 10 of the members from this team to go and assist in Gauteng. And the similar engagement to say that some of these members must go and assist in the Eastern Cape. So that engagement was already there, precedents created. So why now when the dockets are taken away that I'm not engaged? And even the meetings that are taking place, I'm not invited to be part of those meetings.
Now, what if General Sabia comes before this committee and says, but he is the Deputy National Commissioner. He is in charge of detectives, and that he was authorized to issue a directive, even an instruction to the detectives dealing with those 121 cases to bring them to head office in Pretoria.
Honorable Chair and members, there's only one person in charge of the police in South Africa. That's a National Commissioner of Police. He's the most powerful person in the country. And he delegates his responsibility to different levels. There's delegation letter that is signed that says you can do A to Z. So if the National Commissioner have delegated that responsibility to Jarasbia, then I will not argue. But the problem that we then going to have is that if the National Commission is going to delegate something that is in conflict with the legislation, then there's going to be a problem. So if Sbia were to come and argue that the dockets belong to him, or he was told by the National Commission to do that, well, that means the National Commission must come into this portfolio committee and confirm whether did he or did he not. But as far as I'm concerned, we are governed by the legislation, that the members that are before me are responsible for passing. And when they pass this legislation, they expect me and the men in blue to enforce those legislations. So if anyone then violates the legislation, we have to act as directed by these members, that anyone who breaks this law must be punished in this fashion. That's what we do. So if Jarasbia were to come and argue differently to what the legislation is saying, it will mean he will have been admitting that he's breaking the law. I'll hope that when he comes here and he says that, the members are going to call him into task, because it means as a law enforcer, he does not know the very same law he's supposed to enforce.
We also know that, or let me put it this way, sorry. Is it correct that in or around May 2025, there was an attempt to return the dockets to you, and that you refused? And if that is a correct statement, that you refused, why did you refuse?
Honorable Chair and members, I've said this thing a couple of minutes ago. I'm going to repeat again, and I'm going to use an example. As somebody walks into your house, and it's Mr. Arendt's premises, you pay rates and taxes in that house, you are a boss of that house. And somebody comes to your house and remove an item from your house and travel kilometers away, and later calls you, and he says he wants to bring something that you took away from your house. Definitely going to be shocked as to what are you talking about? What did you take and how did you take it? Who authorized you to take it? So, and that's why my response to Jarasen Tumule, who's a divisional commissioner of detectives, when she called me saying that there are dockets that are in Pretoria that must come back to KZN, The question I asked, but what are they doing in Pretoria? How did they get there? Because nobody told me that their dockets taken away. So she then withdrew and said, oh, I thought you knew. Now that you don't know, I don't want to get involved myself. And then she pulled back. She never traveled from Pretoria to my office and said, Mkwanazi, here are the dockets, and I declined to take them. She called me while she was in Pretoria. Well, I assume she was in Pretoria. I don't know where she was. But she called me. She was not in KZN.
Is that Sentumile?
Jara Sentumule, yeah. She will come here and confirm that because she called. But I subsequently, Honorable Chair members, learned that she calls me because her junior members have contacted my members in the province. And they approached them to say, we want to come and give these dockets. And my junior officers in the province said, no, we don't want to. And those that are not even part of the PKTT, those that are working in the provincial office, they said, what are you talking about? The dockets of the PKTT, we don't want to get involved with that. Talk to the provincial commissioner. We don't know anything about what PKTT does. And those junior members of hers, I think, then they went back to her and said, hey, you better phone Mkwanazi because we're not going to call him about this thing. That's when she phoned me. So when I responded, the man I responded, she distanced herself as well. She said, I don't want to get involved myself. I thought you knew. So she pulled back. That's why those dockets remained in Pretoria for the period.
And she told you the dockets were transported to Pretoria?
No, she didn't. We didn't talk about the transportation. She just simply said the dockets are here. When I asked her, how did they get there? She said, but don't you know about the dockets are here? I said, I don't know anything. She said, hey, I don't want to get involved. And she pulled back. So she did not explain how the dockets arrived in Pretoria herself. But later, I learned that she was not responsible for moving the dockets. She only went to General Khumalo's office to collect the dockets in Pretoria. It is Khumalo who moved the dockets from Durban to Pretoria. It was by instruction of General Khumalo to move the docket, not General Sentimon.
And Khumalo never told you all this?
He never told me. I was furious with him.
I was going to ask you now.
Yeah, I was furious with him. He simply said, there's just too much things happening. And so there was this instruction and he decided to comply with it because I think they were just attacking him left and right. Remember, he at the time he had, I would say, 3 things that he was responsible for. One is to try and get rid of these bad members that we have at Crime Intelligence that they were there in 2011 when he was there, that are still there, that are friends to some of the members that are here, that is trying to clean up. They are fighting, they are countering that on one side. On the other side, he's trying to deal with this organized crime that is identified in Gauteng province, that involves these famous people that we see on TV every day. And it's a serious job that he's busy with. While trying to fix this, he has the political task team also in KZN that he must worry about because he's still coordinating the work that the team is doing. And the team doesn't end with the politicians' matters. It involves the traditional leadership matters. You have the issues of fortes and the likes. So he's one man who's got too many things on his table.
That's what I asked you earlier. I said,
but I'm not the national commissioner, but he's assigned. He could have said, no, I can't do this, I can't do that. But he was doing all of them, but it was not a problem. So while he's busy with this thing, that this instruction come that he must take these dockets, and he just complied with that. So that's why when I started investigating, and he's one of the witnesses in my criminal investigation to deposit a statement that says he was instructed by so and so to take the dockets. So he's part of the criminal investigation that we're busy with. And I do hope that pretty soon we might be in court.
So in which circumstances and when did you tell Khumalo that he was going to be arrested?
I told him a day before. I told him he was here before the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence. When I received that information that he's going to be arrested, they're going to arrest him at the airport, and they are going to come with social media. They're going to make it look bad. And what is the arrest all about? He was here when I told him.